All right, the famous computer did it again. Uh, it created a file, like a zero file. It showed me, according to the controls on the screen, that it was working. I want to tell you about a hobby of mine that died. And here's what happened. When I first moved here, I noticed there was money on the ground. This is a tourist area. People come from they used to come from all over the world to see the Amish. And when they walk around, they drop money. And I'd go out for a walk and I would see the money on the ground. I'd just leave it there. I leave it for the kids or whatever. So then one time I was at a yard sale and a woman sold me a tin for $1. And I started saying to myself, every time I see money on the ground, I'll pick it up and I'll put it in that tin. And I started doing that. And in no time at all, I got up to like $15. So I said to myself, all right, let me go over to the bank. I have a bank of a few houses away. And it's a Mennonite credit union. I went over there and I give them the money. And I said to the guy, I said, yeah, this is money I find. I said, when I'm out walking around in the morning, I see other older men and they shuffle along. One of them I used to call Choo Choo. And Choo Choo used to do the Dutch Wonderland. If you Google this stuff, it's all off the Miracle Mile. It's Lincoln Highway. It's the first highway in the United States. It goes from I believe Times Square all the way up to all the way out to California. And you can actually go on YouTube and look at a video called Lincoln Highway, and you can see they explain it. It's the first toll road across the United States, and I'm talking toll with a toll house and a gate. When a buggy comes by, a horse and buggy, they have to pay, and then they lift the toll gate up, and then the horse goes. So you got Dutch Wonderland over there, big parking lot. And Dutch Wonderland was created by Clark. Clark and Joe Myers were guys that made the Miracle Mile happen. But Clark had what would you say, a hotel up at it was more like a drive-in hotel. It wasn't a hotel. It was like a roadside thing. You pull your car up and you get a room. Um, so anyway, people would come here to see the Amish from all around the world, which they don't anymore. And they'd say it's great, but there's nothing for the kids. So Clark bought the property down near me, and there was a big hotel there. And he sold the hotel to Joe Myers, and they moved it. They moved the hotel across the street and up. It's still there. And they put in these little amusement park for younger kids. And now, today, it still exists. It was owned by the Clark family. They sold it to Hershey. Hershey kept it for a while. And you could use your yearly fee to go to Hershey Park, or you could go to Dutch Wonderland. Then they sold it off to a company that'd be out of Florida. They're the ones with the whale, and people always protesting to kill the whale, let it go. Anyway? That's who owns it now. They just put in some new rides that are for bigger kids. So Choo Choo used to do a pattern search of the Dutch Wonderland every morning. He would shuffle along, and he would zigzag back and forth and do that entire parking lot. And that's a big parking lot. If you Google it and look at it, it's pretty big. And then there was a guy on the other side. And I was just walking past the money after a while until I got that little tin. I started picking up the bigger coins and dollars and putting them in my pocket, bringing them home, putting them in the tin. When it got up to be a certain amount of money, I put it in the bank. And then at some point I said, this isn't exciting enough. It's sort of a hobby. You go out looking for money, you get your exercise. I decided to, let me look at this, make sure it's still working. It blew up on me before. I wanted to make it a little more exciting. So I would buy a Mega Millions lottery ticket, only if it was up a certain amount. It had to be over 100 million. And I would buy a ticket. And then I'd hang it up near my desk, and I'd look at it. And it's like the dream. You have the dream. It didn't cost you anything. And then they pick the real numbers. This went on for years. And then at some point, I think that the ticket was $1, then it became $2. And I'm still finding money. And I used to walk during COVID and before. I walked with this neighbor. He died. He was a secret smoker. He died from lung cancer. And we would walk, and I'd point dollars out to him on the ground. He'd get all excited, man. "Oh, you want half the dollar? You have to, no, I don't want half the dollar." And then I told you one of the other videos, the coin spill. I'm talking to a neighbor. I said, "There's a coin spill in the road." And he's standing, there's a car. He can't say, "Walk around that car and look." And it's all quarters and dimes. And I said, "You're going to need a bucket or a jar or something." So he starts picking it up, and he realizes it's a lot more money there than he expected. And then he's like getting all excited. He runs in the house, he gets a can, he comes out and picks it all up. And then he said he was going to give it to his daughter to buy something. I said, fine. But, and then walking with George, I walked up, I told you the story. I walked up near Wawa, and I could see this hillside there. The branches were broke on the ground, and you could see someone was rolled on the ground. And I'm looking down, and I see a cell phone. I grabbed the cell phone, and I see the coin spilled. There's all money through the grass. And I told George, and George starts picking it up. And then I go in Wawa with the cell phone, tell him, I ask him, she says, "Yeah, there was a big fight out there last night." I said, "Well," I said, "here's the guy's wallet, here's his cell phone." I said, "But the money," I said, "my neighbor's already picking it up." I said, "I'm not bringing that back." So I come out, and he's got the money in his pocket, but it's bothering him. And finally, he starts taking it out. He wants me to take it. So I brought it home, and I had it in the kitchen to spill on the countertop for the longest time. And, I was telling him, I said, "Yeah, whenever I get $2, I think it was $2 at that point. I said, when I get $2, I go buy a lottery ticket." And he goes, "Why would you use it on that?" I said, "It's free money. It's free money. It's not actually your money. You can't find who it belongs to, but I didn't have to work for it. I had to bend over and pick it up." And then I kept doing that. Now, all of a sudden, I don't find any money anymore. It doesn't hit you. Certain things don't hit you. And then I put on New York City metal detector, Merrill. I mentioned him once before. And he's talking about on the beach. He's not finding any money anymore. And when he finds money, he can tell by how old it is in the sand, wet, how long it's been in there, and if it's a good spot. And if he finds a lot of coins, he knows that the way the ocean works the sand. You got to watch him. He explains it. That there's going to be a ring and bracelets that have been pulled in to that spot. And now there's no coins because everybody's using Apple Pay. So I'm sitting there going, "Oh, yeah. During COVID, nobody was going to the bank. Everybody was using their credit card or credit cards or basically, oh man, I'm getting so freaking old. This thing here, debit cards." So anyway, I'm walking around. The last thing I found was like a quarter. I'm trying to even think, what did I find anything? But in the meantime, the lottery, I was buying the Mega Millions. It went from $2 to $5. So there's no money in the streets anymore, and the ticket went to $5. So that killed that hobby. That hobby's over with. But it's amazing. I create these hobbies. Now, some of you guys might say, "Well, I'm at work, and the roach coach will come, and instead of buying a donut in the afternoon or maybe a chocolate shake or an ice cream cone, you don't. And then you take that money and get a lottery ticket. It's the same thing, but it's your money. You didn't buy the ice cream cone, but it's still your money. See, in my case, I'm just walking along. And I want to tell you, money has a funny color to it. You're just walking along, and your eye will catch it, and it'll say, "Hey, there's money over there." And you turn and look, and you're like amazed, But I used to find when me and George would walk, I'd say, "Hey, George, there's $1 there. There's $1 there." And then he'd grab it and say, "Do you want half?" I said, "No, George, I don't need money. Money's not my problem." Now, George was real tight with his money, and he died, and his brothers got it. But I don't know what's going to happen to my money when I die. I should write out a will of some sort. But in other words, it was a hobby. It was a hobby I created. I said, you know what? Let me play the lottery and use somebody else's money. And that's what it turned out to be. It was great. You're walking along, you're sort of looking a little bit more than you did, and you're picking up these quarters. And now on the way back, you can go. I would walk over. Part of my walk, I'd go in Walmart and get the girl to change the quarters into $2 or $1, whatever it was at the time. And I say, yeah, I find this money when I'm walking. So I don't have to worry about getting addicted to the lottery because I also had a tin at home, and I'd wait for the lottery. It always had to be up above 100 million before I'd start to play it. And then sometimes it got up to one time it got up to a billion, and it just went money week after week. I had the money in this tin uh, sitting there, and I would find money and bring it home, put it in the tin, and not touch it because the lottery wasn't up past 100 million. And I always tell people if I want to win, if I'm going to win, I want it to be a lot of money. I don't want it, I don't want to start spending the money and then become short. So I said, everybody, I put. And then, originally, when way back when I played the regular lottery, once in a while, it had to be more than 500 million, and I would play it. I'd play one ticket, and that would be it. And the most I ever won, I think, was $40. Well, anyway, you're not going to win. You got the ticket there, and they haven't pulled the numbers, but you know that your numbers are losers. But finding the money for free, it didn't hurt as bad. And that was one of my hobbies that I came up with. It's sad. People used to come from Canada all the time here now. But of course, the idiot, let's call him an idiot, I'm being nice, uh, got Canada upset with us. This is a big Canadian tourist area. Now, I know that this is to be the first year where the Canadians aren't coming, and I can expect my taxes to go up. All right, because that money that the hotels and all that pull in, they have to pay to the percentage to the town, and we'll see what happens. But it was a cool hobby, man. I said, buddy, yeah, one of my hobbies is I walk along and I find money, and then if the lottery goes above so many millions, I play one ticket, and they're looking at me like, you got the. I said, yeah, I found the money on the ground. I'm not using my money. Lotteries tax on the stupid. And it is. It's a tax on the stupid. And in my case, yeah, I'm instead of taking that money like I originally did, I used to put it in a tin, and then when we would build up, I'd buy myself something, or I would take it over to the bank and put it in. And so there's another hobby that's gone. It's amazing how things change. You know, but yeah, the traffic on the highways not as busy anymore because nobody's coming out here anymore because four different states in the area have taxes on clothing. We don't have tax on clothing, so people drive all the way out here and they do their shopping. And we have a Tanger outlet, Rockville on the outlet on the top that's going to be turned back into houses. But the big draw here is there's a Tanger outlet, and it's a pretty good place if you're a shopper. I think that's it. All right, that's it.